Hello and welcome to another episode of Father and Joe. I'm Joe Rockey here with Father Boniface. And Father, we did a number of recordings all in a cluster there for a couple of different reasons. One being travel, one being we knew that there was going to be a new pope, so we wanted to get a lot of recordings in there. And one of the other reasons was I was going to have a birth of my second son. Didn't know it was going to be a son at the time. And that's what we all kind of wanted to get ahead of it now. And we're on the other side. And wanted to first off, thank you, Father. I mean, you've helped me so much through the stuff you see around me that being an audio podcast, you don't get to see. But in my background here is a copy of my book. And for those who haven't read it, the last chapter it's a book about sales, by the way. Casino Sales Master. It's ironic you can make sales and love come together, but that's what the last chapter is all about, is the need to draw closer in love and to draw closer in God. And that's how I final chapter about my sales book, because it's so integral to the way in which I teach people how to sell and really to relate to others. And Father, you started to teach me this process without putting the sales component into it 7 years ago when we started this show. And since then, just looking at the influences that you've had both upon hopefully the audience, but my life as well, it's really, truly outstanding. I want to thank you for that. And when it came time to figuring out what should we give a name for our son to be, Teresa's going through, so we need to find someone that he's good to emulate after. And I looked at it as very easy. He's like, we're going to pick Father Boniface. And that's why my son's name is Boniface, because there is no one else. Everything on the line, who's most likely to be a saint of everyone you know. And Father Boniface, you're the first pick on my list by far. So the way that you teach me, the way that I know from learning from you, makes my life better. And I hope that comes across in every episode that you guys listen to, because Father, not only do you know stuff, you live it and you feel it in a way that really I haven't seen anyone else ever communicate. So first off, I want to thank you for that, and kind of open the floor up to you here, because there's been so much stuff that's happened since our last episode. I kind of want to have you a chance to direct it as you will, but we did want to start with the thanking of you for everything that you've done for my life and my family so far.
Well, Joe, I'm really humbled by that. I have playfully said to people for years, knowing that Boniface is not exactly an ordinary name, when people are having babies, proposing, how about Boniface? And was just stupefied that you would name your son after me. That's really, really humbling, and I'm very moved by that, and just very moved by how much you've taken in what we've done. When we started out, I basically said, in your interest to reach the people of your generation, well, why don't I just talk with you about what's important to you? And that's probably what's important to other people of your generation. And so we set out on that path. And in fact, I mean, to your credit, you have engaged me and brought out many things in me. You've given me the chance to express a lot of different things, and you have asked about things that are important to you, and you've allowed yourself to freely embrace things that you saw as true, and you've watched them transform your life in a way that they could transform anybody's life who's listening. So you are the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and you are the proof of the pudding. So again, to your great credit, and I suppose well, anyway, I'm just really humbled and grateful, and love to be able to share the things that I'm learning, also over the past, whatever it's been, 7 years, 8 years, how long have we been doing this?
I think it's 7 years of active episodes. I think I first reached out to you would have been the Thanksgiving weekend, which would have been this upcoming would be the 8th years of it. But it was the Thanksgiving break is when I called you up originally from you being on the radio, and I just gave you a call about it. And to your point of the proof being in the pudding, it's absolutely true. I wanted to make a very tangible thing, because in my world, for better or worse, I live in the world of sales. And one of the things is that people start with what's in it for them. It's a very basic human nature thing. There's probably some survival rationale in it. And at the time, the religion, the faith, the relationship with God was not as high as a priority it was now. And where I was trying to figure out was in my own personal journey, but as well as for everyone else, if I could just figure out what I get out of this, I think I would embrace it more and lean into it more. And I mean, let's face it, there's 2,000 years of evidence. Something has to be working here. I just haven't figured it out yet. And that was where I was at then. And, looked at it from a logical standpoint. And I'm still not sure I totally have figured out the feelings episode of it. And based upon the evidence of the episodes, you guys are somewhat still in that same spot. The episode we did where I can understand God in my head, but I don't know if I feel him in my heart, is still our third most popular episode we've ever done. So, in that regards, it, to your point, Father, it shows that we are going down this journey together. And I do have to say the full circle of what the initial goal was. What can I get out of this relationship with God? Knowing that outright, that's a flawed way of looking at relationships. But still, when you have a fruitful relationship, there's going to be fruits of it. And the way in which my interactions with people professionally and personally are better. The people that have chosen to enter into my life are better. And in general, things that used to be molehills that would get turned into mountains are staying as molehills. And you look at all of these things from the negative perspective that are better, that equals a positive, but also the fact that I go to mass every week with a 3-year-old and younger, and they pay attention. They know what's going on. He figured out, for better or worse, how to make his voice echo in the church. So, Lord, hear our prayer will echo into the next petition because of him, which is something that the older people think is hilarious. I kind of find I want to listen, but that's a side story. And all of this is a culmination of you being willing to give your time and your knowledge. And I thank you all for that, Father. And again, I hope that other people listen. And the fact that our episodes have filled 2 Rose Bowls makes me think that there's some success that's going on here. So again, Father, I didn't know I was going down this whole episode to just be a thank you for doing all this stuff, but certainly thank you for it.
Well, you're very kind, and I'm really grateful that we can together make an impact. I think your initial desire to awaken people with how important our faith is and what role it plays concretely in our lives as a way of evangelization, of new evangelization, was such a beautiful desire. And I, even then in 2017, 18, I didn't have any time. And I certainly thought, I don't know how this is going to work, but I was loath to encounter someone like you who was trying to make a difference and be the one who was going to not help with that. So I thought, well, you've got the energy, you have a great heart, and so let's see what we can do. And really grateful for how all that's played out.
Absolutely. And we figured some stuff out behind the scenes that has definitely made the episode qualities improve. So that's why I always say, if you guys are jumping in us as a first-time guy, start somewhere around episode 75. That was when we kind of figured out the technology stuff. It's about the time we did the Virtue series. That was about the time, like I said, in my opinion, it really started doing good. And as a testament to everyone out there starting a podcast, that was 1.5 years in. So there is something to learning each other and building the relationship, just as there is with the relationship with God. I mean, Father, I mean, you're a testament to what so many people said. I don't have enough time for my own self. How am I going to fit something else into my schedule? How am I going to fit another relationship? It is an obligation to a degree. I mean, because if you don't renew your relationships, they wither. No matter how willing each party is, you still have to see each other and communicate with each other. And some people, it's like riding a bike. You can just get right back on, and even though that bike's been in the garage for 6 years, it will still work. And some people, you got to warm back up to it and get back to where it was. And that's one of the things that I like about the relationship with the faith, is that if there's anything holding us back from connecting with God, it's always on our side. It's stuff that we've put into our heads, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. The notion of, oh, I don't have an hour a week to go to mass, or you know what, this thing I did in my past that's not the way I wanted is weighing on me too much. There's no way that I'd be worthy enough to approach God, or whatever the case might be that's in your head. In one format or another, that's not true. I mean, just for lack of a better way of saying it, and opening yourself up to the sacraments and a relationship with God does change your world in material ways, in intangible ways. And the testament is there. It matters. It does stuff, and it's so much more fulfilling than any chatbot or AI could ever do. It's not like the Bible just existed until we figured out how to make texting. That wasn't the thing here, let alone to the next degree of what that will become. So again, Father, you said this so many times, and I hope that I'm not stealing the answer out of your mouth, but just try it. It works, and use Father and Joe as a way of enveloping into how to try it a little bit easier. So Father, we're about halfway through this episode. If you can, like I said, expound upon it in a way that goes deeper, because you are the star of this show.
You're so good. One thing that comes to mind as you're saying that, and you said if there's a problem in your relationship with God, like it's on, I forget, you said it a little bit better than that. It's on your end essentially. I'm just sensitive, and it's been so much the subject of our conversations here too. That is true in an abstract sense. God has arranged things, though, that our end develops through relationships. It develops through things that are not necessarily in our control. I guess the misconception that one could get from the way that you said that would be, you just need to fix this thing that's entirely depends on you. And that's, we do have freedom, and there are decisions that we can make. And so I want to be really clear about that. But sometimes that requires a growth in those human relationships. I think about little Boniface now, and his relationship with God is a little underdeveloped, but it doesn't all depend on him to help it be developed. It depends very much on you and Teresa, especially now. The way that you love him will set the patterns of receptivity and relationality that will make a huge difference in how he relates with God. And so for those who have grown up in environments that all of us have grown up in environments where something is missing, some in a much more extreme way. That's not something that we can simply fix by thinking differently or trying harder or something like that. Sometimes that needs to grow and develop. As you said, making the decision to pray, to open, really, it's a matter of opening our hearts to love. I mean, that's really the fundamental thing. If we're, whatever little trust we have, that's the most extreme case, is a person who has been hurt so much and hardly knows how to trust, that when someone comes along who is trustworthy, being able to open our hearts enough to trust and let ourselves be loved is what starts a process of formation, development, expanding our hearts, and then taking that trust, taking that growth that happens in the direction of prayer, relationship with God, sacraments, the church, beginning to invest a little bit in that direction is well, again, hopefully we make a case for that in 400 and some episodes, that's a good direction to go in. But I just want to acknowledge that dynamic. It's for some who hear, they can hear like, try it, and they can act on it. There's enough interior freedom to do that. For some others who hear, try it, there's some struggle, some weakness there that they encounter, and sometimes we need to be able to try it together, and we need the help of another who can also lead us in that direction. So again, I'm just reiterating things that you and I heartily agree on and have talked about at length in so many episodes. But yeah, I just think that recognizing that we really are in it together. And so I guess another kind of encouragement for those who have extra, so I was just describing those who are lacking something, maybe even the freedom to try it, the energy there. But then for those who have extra, who is the one who is lacking that you can reach out to? Who is the one that you can invite, not as a kind of triumph, bringing someone over to our side, but somebody who desperately needs the love of God, but doesn't have the interior strength, freedom to make that step, but could do it with your help. And if you made the invitation, if you went along with that person, if you simply spent time with that person so they could experience what real love is, and then maybe you can help them to make the connection, that taste of real love we have in a few minutes of presence to each other is something that God offers us extensively if we're willing to open our hearts to him. And so anyway, that would be a kind of knowing where you are on that, needing the help of another in this moment, or having help to offer to another in this moment. If we're all making the steps towards deeper Christ-like relationships, then everything works better.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those, the notions you said in there of open yourself up to love, open up your heart, it can be challenging, is what I found for people, is that there's a notion here. I'm going to give two different examples here. Hopefully you can follow it here. That the notion is that there's a path that you have to take. Like almost if you were in the middle of a city with a grid, like Indianapolis or Manhattan, that you have to go down Broadway and then you turn left onto this street and then you turn right on this avenue and you have to go it that way. And it's a very rigid structure, like following Google Maps, if you will. But the reality is it's more like getting to the center of a field where there are no obstructions. There's also no one way to do it. There is an infinite amount of different ways to achieve love and for infinite amount of variables. And one of the exercises that I give to people as a thought experiment to do is to go into one of the memories that you have in your life about a situation that didn't go the way you wanted it, whether it be a big didn't go the way you wanted it or a little didn't go the way you wanted it. But just think about that situation and try to take yourself out of your body. So you're watching this through a movie screen rather than through your own eyes when you experienced it. And just look at the people as person A and person B, not necessarily overbearing parent and me, but just person A and person B. And based upon what that relationship should be, now each of us have a different definition of that, but you pretty much know intuitively what that relationship should have been in that moment. Just sit in that. What should it have been? And as you do that exercise, what you are doing is the same equivalent of stretching. You're just not physically stretching your muscles, but stretching that ability to open up your heart to love, of sitting going, what should this have been? What should this situation that I experienced, how should these people have been talking to each other, acting with each other, feeling about each other, and just sit in those thoughts and let them be with you. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be trying to fix it now, and don't run away from them. Just what should the current of this water been? What was the reality here? And if you do that exercise regularly, you'll start to see an opening of your heart. I mean, this is one of the ways to do it from a thought experiment standpoint, of opening up your heart and opening up the possibility that maybe we could have introduced this, or maybe we could introduce that. And not necessarily saying, and Father, to your point, being correct there, that it has to be you being the one doing all these changes and that you can control everything. But relationships are multifaceted. They're multi-sided. So if this element could have been introduced, if that element could have been introduced, and you're going to know all these in your own mind the more you sit with them, and then take it to the next step and ask God to help you when you're thinking about these. What is it that clearly this is a situation you wish would have been different? What would have helped to have been different? And what else could have helped? And like I said, going through that process will open up your mind to different tangible things in this world, but it also will open up your heart to the relationship factors that you can't just pick up and hand someone trust. But you do give it to each other and you do receive it to each other. But it's not a gallon of milk like that. So that is a way to take some of the things that we talk about here on Father and Joe and imprint it upon your heart here. And Father, I can tell that you're really anxious to give an answer to this, but I took us to the end of the time, so I apologize. That's where we're going to start next week, guys. A little cliffhanger for you. If you haven't
just
already,
to say real briefly, I love those images. You know, the open field and trust is not like a gallon of milk, and just beautiful. So anyway, I love what you said, and I'd love to talk more about it next time.
That is going to be the next episode. You guys haven't already, please leave a star review. That is one of the ways that you can help us get to more people. It does help. You guys are our biggest form of advertising by doing those star written reviews. And also, if you ever want to reach out to us, we are fatherandjoe@gmail. Feel free to send us in content anytime. That is our only form of social media and outreach, at least officially through the show. So we thank you guys for being with us, and we will be with you again next week.